Okay, I see that everybody has joined. So again, welcome everyone to this Mastering Microsoft Teams webinar. My name is Vlad Catrinescu and I will be your host for this webinar. And today I'm really glad to be joined by one of my very good friends and Microsoft Regional Director, Gokan Ozcifci. How are you doing, Gokan?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Vlad. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you very much. It's a rainy morning here in Montreal, Canada.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
just before I leave the stage to Gokan, a bit of boring housekeeping before we get to Gokan's fun stuff. The webinar will be recorded, so if you have to jump out for a few minutes for something important, don't worry, the webinar will be recorded. Everything will be sent to you in the next 36 hours. And also, don't forget to ask questions. It's not every day that you get to have a webinar with a Microsoft regional director. So any questions you might have, please ask them, and we'll make sure that Gokan answers all of them. And you'll get a special prize if you ask a questions that Gokan cannot answer.
Thank you so much, Vlad.
All the stage is all yours, Gokan.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Hello from the east to the west to the north to the east. Goedemorgen, guten Morgen, good morning, merhabalar, shalom, salam. Welcome to this Mastering Microsoft Teams webinar where we will be talking about Teams, Teams, and Teams only. This is a tremendous good time, I think, to present what you can do with Microsoft Teams to onboard your colleagues, to onboard yourself, to use Microsoft Teams. As with those difficult times with COVID-19, Teams is getting more and more popular. With this webinar, hopefully I'll teach you some wonderful features that you could use, but we'll be also seeing some of the drawbacks, some of the dark side of Teams that you should definitely take care because it can cause you some issues in the backend. My name is Gokan Ozcifci. Please don't try to say, oh, Zipsy, it's quite complicated. even me, like I needed 4 years to completely understand and could write it. So it's not that easy. We only have 4 slides, and then we will jump into a 45-minute demo, and we will see the inside out of Microsoft Teams. There we go. So what is Microsoft Teams? Microsoft Teams is one single experience, one single capability that comes across all of the services in Office 365 into one hub. It will use SharePoint for storing the files. It will use OneDrive for storing files. It will use the Dynamics platform or the Power Automate or what we call the flows and Power Apps to the extension of Microsoft Teams. You can use Planner, which will soon gonna be replaced with tasks, but still you can have your tasks into Microsoft Teams. You can extend the TOPS experience with the SharePoint framework. You will use the Microsoft 365 Groups framework as a security model in the backend. You can use the Intelligent Bot framework. You can use Shift. You can use every single artifact into Microsoft Teams. So it becomes one capability for all of those services into Microsoft 365, right? So how does it look like? And this is like the image that I'm giving to my customers and to my community peers. And let me take my laser pointer. This is a Microsoft team, and whenever you create a Microsoft team in Teams, it will create for you automatically a Microsoft 365 group. And the logo is just outdated. It's not called anymore Office 365 group, but it's a Microsoft 365 group, right? And whenever the group has been triggered automatically, well, it will create for you a modern SharePoint site, a shared mailbox for the conversations and an email, and a shared OneNote notebook. And still, we will have the Skype for Business artifact because we still need actually Skype for Business for, as an example, using PowerShell. We still have to use the PowerShell the PowerShell commands of Skype to manage Microsoft Teams. Then you can definitely extend your experience, as I mentioned, by the Dynamics platform. You can also extend this by anything else in the Microsoft ecosystem. But what's really interesting is that you can extend even outside of the Microsoft ecosystem, meaning that you can import files from Dropbox, from Google, or from XYZ. You can bring by default and natively with the connectors a bunch of data into Microsoft Teams. And then finally, you can even build your own application with Azure, with an example here, the notification hub or the pipelines to monitor your application, or even to push notifications on your mobile application with the notification hub. Then a few changes that has been done on the architecture recently is that we have a small SharePoint coming with us, and that's due to the private channels. If you create a private channel today, while a standalone SharePoint site will be created for you, which is not group connected. And that's the reason why you are seeing a small SharePoint site somewhere in between those creation trigger into Teams. What I have to say is that you can see that this line is bidirectional, so from groups to SharePoint. And if you create a SharePoint site, it will create a group for you. But in no case, if you create a group, well, it will not create a Teams. It's only one way. Whenever you create a Teams, it will create a group. How is the storage going? I got a lot of questions from consultants, from the on-premises aged people, like, I want to back up my Teams. What could you recommend me to back up Teams? And the question is very consultant-ish. It depends. Every single feature in Teams is consuming from a service in Office 365, and every service is different and has different properties and methods and backup engines. Here is an example. If we still go on a SharePoint basis, we have the modern SharePoint experience. As I mentioned, the files which are stored in the Teams are stored in the SharePoint site, and we will see that in a few seconds. And if you have a one-to-one chat, well, then the files are stored into your OneDrive, meaning that those are two different products. If you go to the shared mailbox, again, or if you go to the Skype for Business, you can see that the recordings are actually encoded and viewed by Microsoft Stream. So the question of how can I backup? Yes, you can do backups. Yes, you can check everything and see everything, but just understand that Teams is not alone. Microsoft Teams is actually, without those services, clearly nothing. It has to use SharePoint, it has to use Skype for Business, it has to use Exchange, it has to use Office 365 or Microsoft 365 groups to actually be 100% operational. Why is there a need for Microsoft Teams? Because we are now living the digital transformation era. We all want to get rid of our legacy environments. We all want to have that intelligence of the cloud. So there was a need for a secure, scalable, and flexible hub. And yes, today on-premises are very complicated. If you want to achieve what Teams can do in an on-premises environment, think about certificates, about the FBA, like form-based authentication, about the VPN token, about anything else that you could do only for user management. Well, it's huge and complicated. Those cloud offerings, such as OneDrive for Business, which can give you up to 25 terabytes of data, or the innovations such as AI, Project Cortex, Delve, or the transformations with Power Apps and Flow, well, that's all difficult. And in a digital transformation era, you all need them. A few of those things, and this is the last slide before jumping into the 45-minute demonstration. This is what I really like with Microsoft Teams. It has an extremely powerful and fast provisioning engine, meaning if in an organization today, in an on-premises, legacy on-premises organization, a new colleague begins, it literally needs 2 weeks to onboard and to work on a project, because you need to create the mailbox, you need to create his SharePoint site, his home directory. The administrator will forget to do some bunch of stuff. Teams is very fast. You just create your team, add the user into your team, and you're ready to go. You can use the intelligent bot framework, and I will show you a few of those examples into my bot ecosystem. What I really like is that you definitely have anytime, anywhere access. I can see my team, and I just need an internet connection and a browser. And that's something that is really changing your mind whenever you want to work during those difficult times during COVID-19. So that's it. And let me go into my demo environment. So this is Microsoft Teams. This is how it looks by default. So if the IT guy has been doing a tremendous job, he would add you into a few teams and you would see them. And as you can see in my own environment, I'm already part of a few teams. I have a customer team, I have a pictures team, an intranet, and a regional director team. Those are containers that will actually have a bunch of channels where I can have my documents, my business processes, my flows, my Power Apps, anything that could actually be here will be in a team. Take the example that you are not part of that team. Well, very simply, you just have to come just here on the bottom and hit on join and or create a team. Then you will have three options. First is to create a team. Secondly is to join a team. Or then you could also see the teams that are already made for you. Those are public, not the private ones, that you could join a team. If you don't want to create a team, or if you don't have the access to create a team, you can hit on join a team on that one, and you will see that the team will just come on the left navigation bar, and I'm actually part of that team. And I can just start collaborating and start working with my people just into that team. In the case that you can create a team, well, hit on that button and you will get two options. First of all is build from scratch, and secondly is create from. Let's look into the second one. I want to create a team from. Well, you can create a team from team, like an existing one, or from Office 365 group. Remember in my slides, just in this one, I said that if you don't create, if you create a group, it will not create a team. Well, we call this a teamify action. If you want to teamify, so if you want to attach a group to a team, well, that's how it looks like. You have to come here, select your group, and then create your team, and your group will be attached into that team. Now, in my environment, I have no group which is standalone, so I can only create a team from a team. Now it will give me the list of the teams that I have in my environment, and you can see that I have a bunch of them, which shows me the members, and it gives me also a little icon here which says if it's a public or a private team. I can select one of them. I will just choose the demo site. I can give a name, demo Vlad. I can give a description, blah, blah, blah. And then I can just say like it's going to be a public or a private one. Like a private, only team owners can add the members, and public, anybody can join, right? I'm going to make it a private one. And then you could definitely choose if you want to copy the channels, the tabs, the team settings, the apps, and the members. But what people don't read is this one. Messages, files, and content won't be copied. I've seen a lot of organizations creating teams, adding some messages, files, connectors, tabs, websites, and using that as a template. Well, that's an extremely bad idea because teams cannot copy the messages and files and content and so on. So you need to set up all of those again independently. Please be aware to not do that, okay? I'm going back and I'm going to create one from scratch. Then you get three options. And this one, the org-wide, it depends on your right. So if you're a global admin, yes, you will then see the org-wide. If you're not, you won't see this. By default, you will only see the private and the public one. And the org-wide is something very specific. Why? An org-wide team will automatically add everyone from the organization into that team. It's a little bit like the outer loop that we have today with Yammer, because everybody will be there, and whenever you post something into the org-wide team, everyone which is part of that org-wide team will be able to see that. Members cannot leave org-wide teams, so please think twice before creating org-wide, because the thing with that is, if you have a CEO within your org-wide, you can tag him, you can send him messages, you can do anything you want, and you can really, really very fast annoy him. So always think twice before doing stuff. So let's create a new one, and I want to create a public one this time. I'm going to give like a webinar Vlad as a name, and then just create. And now the provisioning engine behind the screen will create the Microsoft 365 group, which will automatically also create the SharePoint site as the Exchange mailbox as the OneNote notebook. So you can add people. I'm going to just skip this one. And there you go. I have my newly created team just here on the left side, which has the first channel, which is called General. The bad thing with General is you can't delete nor rename that channel. You have to use it. You can do actually a lot with that channel. It has to exist. And what really is with the General is if you come under the files, we already know, hopefully we already know that this is actually SharePoint backed, meaning that behind the Files tab, you will have the SharePoint experience. And for those who already know SharePoint, well, you will remember that ribbon just here. You can add new Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations. You can upload or even sync this with OneDrive for Business. And then you could even use the offline mode of OneDrive and get your file on your laptop and use it without your network. Herein, you have the option of opening in SharePoint. If I hit on that, my browser will open, and what you will see is that I will be into my SharePoint, so I have to authenticate myself very fast. And what you will see now that I will be in my shared documents, and I have a folder called General. So that means literally that every channel is equal to a folder into the SharePoint site. So let's make a test. I'm coming here, and you can here in the options, as you can see, add a channel. So I want to add a channel, and I'm going to call this webinar. And many of ours, well, we love using emojis. That's the common thing to do in chats, in emails, to express yourself. And one of the things I really want to show you is you could create a chat. Well, before adding a one, I'm going to just maybe show this. I'm going to add a channel called webinar. It's going to be a standard one, not a private one, to just show you that a channel is a folder in SharePoint. So if I just refresh that page, what you now will see that a new folder webinar will be created into this, okay? So what I will do now is come here again and create a new channel. And I'm going to call it again webinar. So what Teams is going to say is, hey, Gokan, be careful. Channel name is already taken. You can't do that, which is right? Webinar, I can't do that. So what many people can do is they can add some emojis. So I'm going to add this one. I want to have a channel which has a $sign because I want to discuss about the price about this webinar. I want Vlad paying me $1 million because I'm presenting for him. So I could create that and just add a description here in and say go. Teams will say, okay, no worries, that's great, you can do that. So what you would expect is in the backend that a new folder would be created, right? But that didn't happen. If I come back to my webinar herein under files and add a new file, and let's call this a Word document called Gokan's first doc, right? I'm creating that document into the SharePoint experience. I'm leaving the SharePoint experience for the Word Online experience where I can add some content into my Word document. And I'm going to call this is my first sentence, right? And I'm closing this. And now I have a document with a specific name in a specific folder in a specific channel. But look what's happening. If I'm going back to my $sign, well, that file will be available here as well, which is strange because I said each channel has its own folder, which doesn't look correct because I never created any file herein. Let's make it worse. Add a new channel, and I'm gonna call this webinar with another emoji, and I wanna showcase my love. I wanna say, Vlad, I love you. Thank you so much for this webinar, and I'm gonna create that webinar, that channel. What would you expect is, if it has failed for the first one, well, it should fail for the second one. So I'm going to the files, and now suddenly what I can see is that actually I have, first of all, no file, and secondly, that he could translate the ASCII code of my heart. So if I come back to my SharePoint and do a refresh, what you will see is now I have something called webinar with the icon of the sign of heart. Literally a small bug in SharePoint or in Teams. I don't know what to say, but definitely something to showcase to you to learn that emojis could be very bad if you don't take care of what you're doing, right? I'm gonna add the last one to show you the difference, and I'm gonna say like webinar private, right? And now I'm gonna make this a private one, not a standard one. And the difference between this and the other ones, he will now ask me to add people. I can only add people who are part of this team. So if you create a private channel, you can't add people from IT conference. You can't add people from internet. It should all be people from webinar Vlad. Otherwise, you can't do that. So I'm going to skip this for a few seconds. And now what you will see, I have a little slot just here in where I can begin again collaborating within the SharePoint experience. But there's a little bit difference, and I have to show that to you. If you open this in SharePoint, you will see that the SharePoint team in the backend has made a few changes into this SharePoint site. You will first see that this is a folder that is connected to a channel in Teams. It is clearly mentioned. You can go to the channel from here, and you can go to the conversation from here. Why do I say this to you? I've seen a lot of people trying to change the security model or doing a lot of stuff here within SharePoint. Please don't do that. Microsoft Teams every 4 hours will recheck how the site is doing and will erase everything that you have done and apply his own settings. This is a site that has to live and should be only managed by Teams. Okay, so never ever touch this. This is connected to Teams, and every change actually should come from Microsoft Teams. If we come again on the 3 dots, as you can see, I've showed you that you can add channels, but you have a bunch of those examples. You can hide a team. If I hit on hide, you will see it will come under the hidden teams. And by default, if you don't have any activity, you or your colleagues into your team, well, it will automatically come from your teams under the hidden teams, which will help you in gaining in productivity. So now what I will do is I will hide the Vlad webinar, and I want to show the demo site. And as you will see now, the demo site is now part of my teams, and now I'm hiding the Vlad's webinar. If I hit on the 3 dots, I can manage a team, and that's where it's getting interesting. I can manage a team, and I have 5 different tabs to manage a team from the Teams client. I can see the owners of that team, and I can see the guests and the members. There is a fundamental difference between a member and a guest. A member is a person who is part of my organization, and a guest is someone who is not part of the organization, and they can also be part as an external user into my tenants. I can add a member from here, or I can come back here and add a member from here. I have 2 options to do that. If you want to remove a member, just hit on the cross, or if you want to change somebody from member to owner, just do like this, and that person will become an owner. You will get a list of all of the channels available to you, where you can actually have a few of those options to show that to me or to show that to you, the members. You can see the description if you have the description, the type if they are private or standard, the latest activity, and what is tremendously good and what SharePoint literally sucked is having an archiving model with the channels. Meaning if you have deleted a channel, well, you can restore that channel by simply hitting on restore, and it will restore everything, the content, the files, everything that was part of this channel back into my team. As you can see, I had a lot of conversations going on, and I did just restore them just by one click. I'm gonna back to my managed team and coming under my channels. Yes.
One quick second. Sorry to interrupt you, but two quick questions here.
Yes.
First of all, has the issue with channel renaming been fixed? So
no.
Does the SharePoint folder
Yes.
rename automatically?
Unfortunately not. So this is something that I had to show you, but you guys are too fast. This unfortunately still hasn't been resolved. I know that Microsoft is working on that, but today still no fixes.
Okay, and the other quick one, anything from the admin side to prevent the use of emojis in the channel name?
Yes, in the channel name.
In the channel names.
No, well, the thing is, I couldn't find anyone. I have a customer waiting there for, but the thing is, even like people can just do like this. That is Windows .comma, and they will have the emoji panel open. So I couldn't find a solution. If they find a solution, I would be really glad to learn it from them.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, cool. So what was I saying? Yeah, cool. So this is like how you restore your channel, and then what you have is the settings panel where you can actually add a team picture just here in, where you can actually define what members can do, like they can you can enable them creating a channel, enable or disable a bunch of those actions. You have the guest permissions, what they can do, and I remember what I said to you, there's a fundamental difference between a member and a guest. This is what the member can do, this is what the guest can do, right? And then finally, you have something what I really like is this one, the team code. Every team has a specific code. Unfortunately, you can define your own code. That's something that Microsoft is providing for you. And every single time, whenever you hit on reset, you will get a new code. You can bring that on full screen. So if you are presenting something, people can just join that team and you can copy that. Why do you have that team? It's because remember when I said you can create or join a team, well, you have that section for adding that specific team. If you paste that and do just join, well, it will come back into the demo site because I'm already part of that, right? So you could just copy that code, give to your employees, and they can easily join a team. Something new, or maybe just finish this one. You also have analytics very quickly that you can see how many users, how many posts, replies, what's the size of my SharePoint site, how many owners and guests do I have, etc., etc. Very basic data, and you can also filter through channels and even see like how many dates, like last 7, last 30, last 50 days. What I want to show is this one as well, the new option of having tags. If you, so how should I explain that to you? Because we had a bunch of discussions with Vlad about this as well. For me, tags is something like Instagram, like Twitter, like Facebook, is the place where you create a hashtag where you can notify people. But Teams is working slightly different. So whenever you create a tag, it asks you for a name. So let's do webinar Vlad hashtag. And then I can add some people, and I want to add myself and say, everybody who mentions webinar Vlad, well, please notify me. So I'm going to create that one. And then I'm going to close this. If I come under any channel, just here, and I'm going to go to the general one, just here. And I do something like this, the add, and do webinar Vlad, right? Oh, wow. Then you will see that there is a tag, and one person is attached to that. And what you will see is the blue color that we all managed to see. But if I do something like this, flight expenses, and then another one, F16, and I'm just calling channels, well, another one, help V2. Well, at the end, you don't know which was a hashtag or which was a tag, which one was a channel. And you can also call people, right? I can also say like, okay, I want to just call my brother just here. And you don't know what the difference is between a tag, a channel, or a people, because they all look the same. They all have the same color. So what I say to my people is, whenever you create a tag under manage a tag, please create a tag with the hashtag webinar Vlad, and then add myself just here in, create that, close the tag, and then just do this. And from a visual perspective, now, as I've been using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram for a decade, I know with the hashtag in front that this is a tag. And if I just post this herein, well, after posing, well, you know that the red one is actually a tag, but now visually I have a better understanding even before posting it because I have a hashtag in the front. But this is a new way of connecting with people into your organization and saying like, hey, I need you without tagging them. So you could have a tag for product marketing. You could have a tag for engineering. You could have a tag for doctors, and then publish something and tag people so they will get the content from you. Then, well, as we are busy with the conversations, you will notice that a bunch of people will do this. Hey, Gokan, I have a question. And then somebody else will just reply, hey, what's up? And the other one will just say, oh, I have another question. And they just will continue their conversation like this. And honestly, this is driving a lot of people crazy. This is not how we should collaborate. What people just don't see is that little button, the format button that we have just here. And honestly, and that's a common practice or even a best practice that I'm giving to you to start a new conversation. You have three options. You can start a new conversation or a new announcement, right? The difference between a new announcement and a new conversation is with the announcement, you get a headline and you can add an image. So what I will do is I will start a new conversation and I will say webinar Vlad, right? And then just come here and then add some more text. Just come here, blah, 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 few text. And then what I could do is bring some moderation into that. And I could say, oh, everyone can reply to that, or only moderators can reply to that. Why is it so important? Because, okay, this webinar with Vlad is something that I really don't care, but this as an example, and I'm going to change this to an announcement, and I'm going to enable only moderators can reply, a headline, we fired the CEO Vlad. And the thing with that is, it's so touchy, and maybe as an organization, you want to avoid having discussions around that. You want to avoid a bunch of stuff going with that. So maybe it's a good thing to have moderation and disable comments. And that's the sense where it is. Like, be careful with that. If you open this with everybody, no worries. You can change the color, bring this to red. You fired Vlad as a CEO. Okay, but if the info is confidential or you want to avoid having long discussions, I would say you could enable moderation. I'm not saying to do that, but the option exists. And this one, which I try to never use because it has the same effect as reply to all in an email, is the post in multiple channels. So if you have a message, you could just select your channels and say like, okay, into my demo site, I want to publish this everywhere, which is possible, right? I'm updating this, and you could also do this across teams. And now I'm publishing this. Oh, he wants something like a text, hey, and I'm publishing this. And there you go. I have a message, a new announcement, and you will see that you will get a new icon called announcement. You can see a new icon, which will show me in which channels it has been posted. And if I come to flight expenses, F16, help desk, well, you will see that the announcement is there. The bad thing with that is if somebody hated Vlad into the help desk department, he could do something like this, right? He could be happy. But then the bad thing with that is that the comments are not synced yet. Hopefully Microsoft will ever do that. But today, if someone replies on a thread, well, those are not synced, and that's the reason why I said it has the same effect as reply to all, because you don't know where to watch, what to do. And if you don't bring moderation into that, well, you could have a bunch of people replying, but at the end, it will be like, oh, I don't know what to do because I have like 65 commands on 65 different channels, and you're just lost, right? Coming back here, a bunch of cool options like bringing a text in bold, underlining, etc., etc. But the thing what I really love is the code snippet, this one. We are all doing some kind of development IT stuff, and teams have some intelligence and intelligence from the common languages that we could use. And the most easy one for me is the HTML one to showcase to you. Everybody who knows HTML knows that HTML begins with a tag like this, and just be aware and have a close look. If I close my tag, Teams will automatically close my HTML. If I do like body, then he will close my body. If I do like head, he will close my head. If I do a P1, he will close my P1. This is my text, and I'm gonna just, to make it beautiful, do it like this. I'm gonna insert it, and he will just keep the same structure as a HTML code into my conversation, right? And you can just publish this, and then you can begin a new conversation onto that code. As you have seen or heard, as I said, j'ai un accent français. I'm from Belgium. I do speak a lot of French in my home, even outside home, and my English is not perfect. And we know that Teams is there to help you breaking silos. And a lot of organizations do have multiple locations across continents. And take the example that you have a colleague in France and his English is really not good. So he could start something like, bonjour, Vlad, peux-tu m'aider pour résoudre ce problème? He could write something in French to Vlad or to Gokan and say like, hey, please guys, could you help me? But his English is so bad that he's ashamed to write this. What's really cool is with Teams that it will help you to translate any text to English. This is an option that the administrator has to activate. By default, I think it's not available. But if you hit on translate, then you will see that your text will be translated into English. It can be translated from any language to English. And as you can see, hello, Vlad, can you help me solve this problem? Is exactly what I have written in French into my chat. So I could just reply, hot dog, or just do like dog, hamburger, and cola, right? 3 words, meaning nothing, right? Whenever the first time my manager told me eat your own dog food, I was like, why does it talk about a dog and food? I just provided a SharePoint site. And most French people actually are ashamed and don't know what of those English words means. So what they could use is the following one. You have a feature coming from the EDU, which is called Immersive Reader, which you can just hit, and you will leave the Teams experience and come into the Immersive Reader experience, where actually you have 3 simple options. The first one is the text preferences. Here on the right, you can choose the text size. You can just increase the spacing, choose the font. Nothing very sexy to see on that. You can show the nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, etc., etc. But what's really, really interesting with the Immersive Reader is the picture dictionary. If a French guy doesn't understand what dogs mean, he could use the Immersive Reader, hit on the word, and Immersive Reader will show you the image of a dog to showcase you what that word means. Another one, hamburger. If you don't know what hamburger means, it can show you what hamburger means. But the bad thing is, we in France do call a Coke un cola, or in Belgium as well. But then he is lost. So it is really, really, really focused on English, really English or proper American words, but not to dialects or synonyms or how we are aimed to say some words. So always be careful with that. Something also really great and fundamental is that with the immersive reader, you can translate any text to any other text. Remember, I had a French text translated to English and a few other words. So I could just take this and translate to Turkish because my dad is a Turkish guy. So I could just say, I don't want to have it by word. Please translate the whole document. And now he is translating a dog to a köpek, which is right. But then again, as I mentioned, it's really only English focused. Now it can't show me the image, unfortunately. But still, you can translate and you can even listen to how it has been pronounced, or you can even read the whole thread if you're in a bus and you don't want to read but listen. You can just hit on the play button and it will just read the whole text in Turkish for you, and you can just listen to the topic. Okay, another thing, if I mention here, I can mention some people, but I can also mention some bots. And I have a bot, and please don't judge me based on the name because I'm still developing a bot, which is called Team App Q&A Neoxy bots. And what I'm literally saying to every customer is to replace those legacy HTML files or to replace every single FAQ into bots. And Azure Cognitive Services is one of those perfect examples because you can use the Q&A maker.ai, which I'm going to show you in a few seconds, without a single line of code. You can just have a bot into Teams which can reply to your questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question. What about Valo? And now I ask my question, so the bot will intercept my question. And normally it's like a SharePoint server. It needs to be warmed up. So it will take a few seconds. And I've seen normally the first question is always something about 15 seconds. So I need to be really patient. Actually, I have to wait until he wakes up. But within the 15 seconds, he should actually understand my question and say like, okay, what's Valo? But now it takes more time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe authenticate myself under Q&A maker.ai. That's the service that I have been using to create the bot. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign in and I'm going to showcase you my knowledge base because it's so simple that even an end user can create that bot and deploy this in their teams. And I'm going to come back to the reply, still not. So I'm going to just leave it a few seconds. And what you will see is after the first question, the second question, it's going to be so fast, but the first question always takes a few seconds. But now it's taking like way too much. Okay. Okay. That's maybe the reason why it doesn't work. I think there is an issue with me or with Azure now in the backend.
You broke it. You broke it.
Yeah, I think. I think, but there is something. We'll see. But yeah, it's so easy to deploy the app to create your knowledge base in Q&A, and then very simply you can just come under the three dots here, and then you have, and I can't see it here. Oh, there you. I have pinned it. It's just called App Studio, and then you can just hit on App Studio under the manifest editor. You can just add your own bot, and you can just use it into the Teams app gallery. What I'm going to show to you as well is the following one. We all love Teams, not because of the collaboration aspect, but it also gives you the ability to have some meetings, right? You can just come here and do a meeting, or you can just into a chat use the Meet Now option and start a new meeting. And now you will see my ugly face. Hi there. I can just start and say like webinar Vlad and do a Meet Now, right? And what I will now do is very simple. I will disable the camera to just not to not break the internet again. But what you can do is the following one. You have the background effects, what's something new. You can choose any background effect that Microsoft is providing to you, or you can even add your own background. And for those who want to know this, Vlad, maybe you can paste the URL into the chat, but people can definitely add their own custom background and use them into a chat. So if I'm a huge fan of Dragon Ball, and if I do this, then you will see my face with the Dragon Ball or with the matrix in the backend, which is tremendously good. So I'm gonna close this, and what I will do is the following one. You can share your desktop, you can share your screen. I will maybe disable this. You can share the screen, the desktop. What I'm in love is this one, the whiteboard. The whiteboard meeting is a completely new experience. Which will replace the share screen for a collaboration perspective. What we aimed to do before was the speaker was presenting and the attendees were listening. But with whiteboard now, I can draw and say like, hey, we have a SQL server which is connected to the cloud, right? And which actually has a data center just here, right? And this is my meeting, right? And I'm collaborating, and the attendees of that meeting can also interact and draw with me. So we are moving from one to many to many to many. Everybody in the meeting can draw on the same app. So I'm done. I'm stopping this presentation. And now what I will do is from Windows, I will open Whiteboard app. So anybody who was not part of the meeting, but is still part of the team, well, they can see the whiteboard drawings. So I'm going to open this. It will take a few seconds to open that. And there we go. He found that there was a new drawing. I'm opening that drawing, and I was not part of the meeting as a CEO or a CTO because I had something else to do. I can just continue the drawing from here, right? What's tremendously good with Whiteboard is I can even add a drawing from a previous meeting. And you would say like, Gokan, come on, that's only adding an image, right? Only if you hit on ink grab and this one. Now AI and the intelligence of the cloud behind the screen will now transform that image into a real drawing, and me as a CEO and a CTO can say, hey people, that's not correct, because the last meeting we had way more sales, and my apologies for the bad drawing skills. But I could say like, we had much more sales, so we don't definitely need this, and cloud is a wonderful option for us, right? I can transform all pictures, all drawings, and bring them into my meeting as well. A final example before then heading to the Q&A, because we only have like 10 minutes left, I'm gonna showcase you how you can then interact with the Power Platform. Therefore, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open, and hopefully this time I will not break the internet or Azure, right? There we go. I'm gonna create a new app in Power Apps. I'm gonna create a blank Power Apps, call it Webinar Vlad. I'm so creative today. And now within the designer, we're gonna create a feedback form that actually people can use in their app. And with Automate, we're gonna send that feedback to Microsoft Teams. And that's something that we are using already in our organization in the production environment. So what I will do is I'm gonna add a text input just here, very big, very raw, just here. And then I'm gonna add an icon, and with a blue one, just save, right? And now what I will do is say, under the action, that specific icon will be associated to a flow. What flow now will do is with my credentials, he will check how many flows I have, if I wanna use them, or if I wanna create a new one. And then he will bring me to the flow experience under my environment and propose me some of those templates. You could use a blank one, you could use a template, I don't care. The only thing is I'm using a template because it's easy and I will simply erase the existing ones. So it doesn't really matter a blank or a template, just use anything to flow. And then you will see, as I said, I'm gonna just delete this. I don't need that one, right? I'm gonna delete that. And now I have my entrance, which is like Power Apps. I'm adding a new step and I'm just selecting Teams. Herein, the one that I really love is the following one, posting a message. And that should be a V3, there we go. post a message v3, still in preview, unfortunately, but now I can post a message that comes to Power Apps, from Power Apps to Teams, thanks to Flow. Now it asks me the team ID. It will check with the credentials in which team I have access. So I'm going to go under the demo site and under general or anything else. Remember the flight expenses and help desk. I'm going under general. And now I could have a static message, right? But I'm going to avoid that. And I want to have something dynamic that comes from Power Apps. So I'm going to ask this in Power Apps. Very simple flow. I'm going to call this webinar Vlad, and I'm going to save this. It shouldn't take that much time to save it. It's very simple, very basic. And now it has been saved. I'm coming back to my Power App, and in a few seconds, it should automatically detect the new flow. There we go. And I'm hitting on that. Now he's assigning or actually adding that flow to my button. But what you will see that it's going to fail. It's going to say, Gokan, I can do that, but you requested some dynamic content. I need to know what you need. And what I'm going to say is, hey, that's great. I want you to take the text input value of what I will give to you. It should be maybe V capital. It doesn't like it. Text input dot text and not value. My God, it has been a long webinar. There we go. So now that flow will run and it will take the value of my text input. So let's test it. I'm hitting on play and I will just erase this and I will say like, this webinar was awesome. Thanks, Vlad and Gokan. I'm hitting what you will see a few lines, the flow has run. If I come under my teams and go under general, and you will see this webinar was awesome. Thanks, Vlad. Thanks, Gokan. I want to thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining this webinar. I've been talking for 50 minutes without any pause to showing every single detail that I knew that I think would be interesting for you during those difficult times to learn. We've seen how you could schedule a meeting, how you could use Whiteboard in a meeting, how you could have custom backgrounds, conversations, the Power Platform integration, all of that in less than 1 hour. So if there are questions, Vlad, I'll be glad to take them.
Okay, Gokan. So there are quite a few questions. I already managed to answer 13 of them in the chat.
Wow, that's great.
There's 10 of them that need your knowledge. Okay, so okay, so question from Andre. How to create, share, and store Power Apps and flows on the organization level so that it would not be linked and belong to a single author?
So they want to create a Power App and a flow.
Yeah. Or flows.
Or flows and not link them into Power App.
No. So you know how when you create a flow, it goes under My Flows and then you have to share it so it goes under Team Flows?
Yes.
That's the trick.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I'll take a jab at it, Andre.
Yeah, maybe we can think offline, but yeah.
Basically, make sure that whenever a app or a flow that gets created that is used for a business process, make sure that you share it with a security group like the IT security group or something like that. And then that security group would always have access to it. So if you disable that other account, it would not be tied only to that account anymore. Okay, okay, question about the translation.
Yeah.
Should the translation be done by the sender or recipient? Is it rendered for everyone or only you?
Well, it can be done by both, and it's visible for you. And definitely you can just revert it back. So if I go under my Teams, and if I'm not wrong, I did it just here. Like, you remember, this is now translated from French to English, and now I can just revert that, and now the text is in French again.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so another question. Every SharePoint site collection has a storage quota value. The team's channel sites too, but it's different. Can we change somehow the storage quota setting for the team channel sites?
Um,
I think it can only be
um,
done via PowerShell, right?
that's the only, well, even that, I don't know. I'm not sure. I have to double check, but that's the only way I think it would be possible. But even that, I'm not pretty sure you can do that.
Because they don't show up. I mean,
Yeah,
the private channel site collections do not show up in the
in the
UI.
admin
So
center, yeah. So the only
PowerShell
way,
would
yeah.
be the only way if it works.
Well,
I've never
even, well,
tried it yet.
yeah, no, because it's like something standalone, something managed by Microsoft and Teams. It doesn't show up in the admin center. And the only way to see if they exist is PowerShell. And if you want to change the quota, I'm pretty sure PowerShell could do that, but even that, I have to test.
You're not
Never
sure.
tested,
Okay.
yeah, never tested before, and I can't really. It's interesting to hear that, because what would be the use case on doing that in a private channel? Because for me, a private channel is not something that should live like a standard channel. It's something where you just discuss, do stuff, and then you just leave it and delete it. But I would really love to hear what the reasoning behind that.
Okay, next up, is the translation something that can be switched off by an admin?
Yes, it can switch off and switch on by an admin. Yes. So if you don't see it in your tenant, then basically it is switched off by the admin.
Okay, awesome. Okay, this is a more longer question with a bit of background. So my company has implemented Microsoft Teams, and unfortunately, this was done without governance. So no retention, no sensitivity labels, just the default. We are in a situation where we are having issues with how people are storing documents in Teams versus our on-premises SharePoint environment, which is our records management system. What would be the best approach to rein this in? So to add governance and things like that.
Wow, that's a huge question, actually. If we talk about governance, we could talk about every single detail in Teams. A bunch of people have been doing like they said, like just pumping files into Teams, and that's also a little bit due to Microsoft. And I have to um, actually blame Microsoft, because they said, first of all, everything is flat and we just need one folder in Teams, and just bring your files into that without governance, without policy, without anything. And then they've seen that they did a big mistake and came back to SharePoint. And now that's the reason why every single file tab now is backed by SharePoint. And now you can do way much more than you could do before. Unfortunately, there is no real answer to the question to how to start from an on-premises environment where you were managing everything to an environment where you cannot manage everything and expect the same result. Um, yes, you need to definitely have governance at a certain point. But what I have seen at Microsoft Teams is how more control you want. First of all, it costs more money, because having some naming conventions in groups in Teams, having some intelligence with namings, like you don't have to use the F word in one of those group names. Well, it has a certain cost. And secondly, it just scares people. But I agree, there need a certain level amount of governance to be applied in Teams.
Okay, I see that we're at the top of the hour, but Gokan, there's still a few more questions if you have 4 or 5 more minutes.
Yeah, definitely, just through them.
Okay, so can you disable the Teams mobile app for a user or group without using conditional access policies?
Can we disable the app without conditional access?
I
Uh,
think maybe with Intune if you have Intune or MDM MAM solutions, but I'm not sure if you know of any.
Yeah, but then again, um, Intune is meant for, if you have a corporate phone, yes, but if he still has a non-corporate phone, he can install the app and he can still authenticate therein. So I don't think Intune would be the correct answer, but it's definitely a great way to have a look into that.
Yeah, for sure. For, like you said, if for a corporate phone it would work, but not for every single phone.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see what else. This one we've done. This one we've done. Do you know of any way to export data from Teams into other systems? Like, say you want to keep the chats, you want to keep things like that.
To other systems. So what means other systems? Are like outside of Microsoft ecosystem, or
Yes.
is it like Linux and Unix and Red Hat?
No, like say you want to save the information elsewhere.
So APIs at Microsoft are still not ready yet, but I've heard from some vendors that they can do that. So they can extract data, conversations, and even bring that data to another team. So they can extract that, copy that, remove that, do anything. And I've seen, can I just say some names, Vlad? Or
sure, yeah, no problem.
AvePoint, I've seen a demo from AvePoint, from the head of PFEs at AvePoint. They have a solution today that can export the data, commands, files, even the structure of teams, and copy that, and even do impersonation, meaning that if Gokan was the author in team A, well, they can export that data and bring that to multiple other teams with the same username. So it looks like it's possible at some vendors.
Okay, so that means there should be a public API pretty soon, and I see that there's other vendors like BitTitan that can do it. So yeah,
so I would say
we'll have it soon.
I would say like release candidate API, which some partners are already using and demonstrating, but I would say it will come very soon, and we would be all able to export data and do whatever we want with that data very soon.
Okay, one last question before we end this. We are a 180 people unit inside a 10,000 people org that owns the tenant. Is there a way to create a public team only for our unit?
A public team for own units?
For only our unit. So a public team, but only people from the said department, let's say, could join.
Well, technically, no. And yeah, why not just create a private team? Like, if you create a public one, anybody within the tenant can join that team. That's for sure. So it's a bit strange question, but technically, I would say if you want to create something public, well, it's not going to be only for your unit. Unfortunately, that's not possible.
Yeah, I would say, I guess the only way to go around this is to, of course, create a private team, but then have a join code that you share to everybody in your unit. And then they can use that join code to join it.
Yeah, but
the one I can think of.
Yeah, sure, but that's then a private one and not a public one.
Team. Yeah, it's still a private team.
Yeah, technically it's not possible, but yeah, you have a bunch of workarounds like Vlad said, a team link or a team code that you could do, but technically it's still a private group and not a private team, public team.
Awesome. This is it, Gokan. Thank you very much for your time, for the community. It's really appreciated, and it was a great webinar. Also, apparently, when I say okay, Gokan, I'm activating people's Google Home because Gokan is close to Google. So I'll be careful not to say that or to say it on purpose from time to time. But thank you very much, Gokan. It's been an awesome webinar. And for everybody else, like I mentioned, we will share the recording with you within 36 hours after the webinar.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, we have a free ebook as well about Microsoft Teams. You can download this on that specific link. And I'm pretty sure, Vlad, you can also share the link to our attendees so they can download the link. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. And hope to see you next time. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.